Once upon a time, there was an 8-year-old boy who loved video games so much he wanted to play them all. Then, at the age of 12, he told his mother he wanted to collect them all. That was 32 years ago. Hi, my name is Joel, and welcome to my games room. There are a total of 5 individual game rooms in this games house. Let's begin with the modern room, and we start off with my Xbox collectibles. Predominantly, this is an Xbox One collectible cabinet. It still needs a lot of tweaking, and yep, I need to fill it up. Over here, we have the PlayStation 4 collectible cabinet. My favorites here would be the Resident Evil house and Drake from Uncharted 4, and yes, I love Knack. That Knack poster too was given to me by Sony Japan. I also have priceless collectibles that fans send in, like this skateboard from Robert. This is where I keep all my joypads for the modern consoles. And I also keep my handhelds here. This used to be our lounge room, and now it's become a shrine for Halo and Gears of War. We're in a modern room, let's check out modern hardware. 3 flat screen TVs, 2 LCDs, and a 65-inch OLED. I absolutely love this TV. This is where I spend my Friday nights with my family. My wife, my son Luke, we have an absolute ball. This area houses everything from Xbox 360 right up to PS4 Pro. Well, in this corner I have my vinyl soundtracks and some laser discs to go with that. I'm a massive Gradius fan, and who doesn't love Street Fighter? I love collecting video game soundtracks. I've got hundreds on CD, and now my obsession has become vinyl. The other thing I have an obsession with is game guides. While we're speaking of books, my magazine collection. I have been collecting magazines for over 30 years, beginning with C+VG. These days I collect a new magazine, Retro Gamer, a modern magazine about retro games. I'm also very proud to have the full set of Amiga format. However, what I'm most proud of is my Zap 64 collection. Every one of these magazines I bought when I was a boy. That concludes this room and brings us on to the next room, the computer room. Okay, so now we're over at the Japanese computers. These are so close to my heart because I grew up with these things and no one else had them. X68000, a monster of a computer. Did you know they used this computer to program Capcom games back in the early 90s? This is one of the most popular Japanese computers of all time, the MSX. This one's a Sony variation, the MSX2. And one of the kings of the Japanese computers, the FM Towns, made by Fujitsu. One of the first CD-ROM computers ever. Now, like all good computer rooms, you need a plan. This is Chuck, for all you LucasArts fans out there. Now we'll move on to the Western computers, and this is the Amstrad CPC 464. This is the actual one from my younger years. Then we move over to the ZX Spectrum. I actually never had one of these computers growing up, and boy, do I love it. Now we move over to my first love, the Commodore 64. I fell in love with this computer the moment I saw it. I have every single version of the Commodore 64 for my second love, the Commodore Amiga 500. Now, back in the day, I was a huge cracker and hacker on the Amiga 500. Let's move on to the library itself. Up here, we're going to start with my Spectrum games. My favorite game on Spectrum would have to be Jetpack. This is my Commodore 64 library. There's thousands of them. Not only is this library functional, but it's actually a replica of a computer shop where I once worked. At the back, there are more Spectrum games, and behind me, PC games. Boy, have I learned to appreciate PC games over the last 5 years. What was I missing in the 90s? Yep, that's right, I never grew up with PC games. When I was growing up, I actually never owned an original Amiga game, but I'm making up for it now. I've currently got 600.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, enough of this room. Let's head to the big library. Before we head into the library, I want to show you the hallway. We've got the arcade room, the retro room, and the library. So this is a connecting hub, and I have my retro collectibles here. I have so many treasured memories and priceless collectibles. One of my most treasured collectibles is this Yamaha DX7 keyboard. That was actually given to me by Sega. Down this end of the corridor, we've got some PlayStation collectibles, including the 500 millionth limited edition. One of my absolute favourites would be the Metal Gear Solid 5 console. For more information on collectibles and anything retro, you have to check out Ion Retro. I would be here for weeks if I had to talk about everything in this library, so we'll just do major sections. This is a Sega section, and yes, I do say Sega like that. That's just how Australians say Sega. So we're going to start off with my prize collection, the full library of Japanese Mega Drive games. And yes, the incredibly rare Tetris. There is heaps to talk about in this section, and being one of my favourite companies, there's a lot of stuff here. Master System, Mark III, SG-1000, Game Gear, Dreamcast, and my full set of Saturn games. I will say there's not a lot of things put up yet, and I've made the room future-proof so I don't run out of space. That's happened a lot. This room's actually changed 7 or 8 times. We have 2 juggernauts here, the X68000 and the Neo Geo. The X68000 should be in the computer room, but I had to have them next to each other because they're so similar. Down this aisle I have vintage consoles such as the Intellivision, ColecoVision. They need heaps of work. I've only just begun collecting for those guys. And the Atari 2600. Most of those games are from the late 70s, early 80s. This is my Amiibo collection, and this stuff can get so addictive. This aisle has the GameCube, Wii and Wii U. We're now moving to the back of the room, and the whole back of this room is Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, Game Boy Advance, and my beloved NES full set. My Famicom collection needs a lot of work, and it's probably my most played Nintendo console. Ending with Nintendo, we have the incredible Nintendo 64. An amazing console that comes in so many colours, and yes, I own an Ultra 64. Now with all these games, it's fairly obvious we're going to do game reviews. And one on the agenda, James Bond. I've actually got a prototype version of GoldenEye. My PlayStation 4 collection. Although not the biggest, because new games are so long, I like to finish the game before I buy another one. Otherwise, I just wouldn't finish games. Second to Nintendo, PlayStation would have the biggest footprint in this room. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2 American. On the far wall, Japanese PS2, an exhausting 20 years to get a full set of PS1 Japanese games, and I've just started on PS1 US games. Finally, we get to the Xbox. Xbox original Japanese, full set of Xbox games, and Xbox 360, one of my favorite all-time consoles. As I said, it's impossible to go through all the collectibles, the rarities, and all the video games in this library. With owning many complete sets, you have to check out Game Set Complete, where we take an in-depth look at all the games on a particular console and the hidden gems. We are moving over to the Famicom box and the Super Famicom box, two jewels in my collection. These Japanese systems are quite rare, and we will have a look at those on Ion Retro. Well, this is over 10 meters of retro consoles, all CRTs. This is my mother's first color television set. It's a 1979 Rank Arena. It's not working at the moment. We are doing a story about this on story mode. One other segment on Last Gamer you must check out. This TV will be running ColecoVision, Atari, Intellivision, and all those pre-1982 consoles. Also, slightly out of chronological order, we have a Bang & Olufsen TV running a Jaguar, a 3DO, and a Fujitsu Marty. Here we have all the Sega consoles on this beautiful Blancpain TV. Now, as you can probably see, this is running RGB SCART. That's why we've got a clear, crisp picture. And you've just gotta dig these exclusive Sega speakers. You'll see them on What's in the Box Japan. Now we move over to the Nintendo section, and this has all the major Nintendo consoles: NES top loader, Twin Famicom, Super Nintendo NTSC, Super Famicom Japanese, N64, and the N64 DD drive. Even though there's only a few games on it, I do actually love F-Zero X on the DD. The other two consoles that are here are a PC Engine Duo and a Super Graphics. All the controllers for these consoles are kept in drawers underneath. All right, so now on this beautiful Sony PVM monitor, we are running a PlayStation 1. Underneath that is a Pioneer LaserActive. After PlayStation 1, we now move over to PlayStation 2. Again, another beautiful Sony PVM monitor. This one's slightly bigger. This is a 29-inch. This currently runs a PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. And the final CRT in this lineup is the Sony Wega. This runs all the consoles that can output component: GameCube, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii. Now for me, the next step after CRT, well, it was Plasma. And I love my Pioneer Plasma. This is a 508LX 1080p screen, and it is probably one of my favorite screens in the whole house. This houses last generation and this generation. The final thing to show you in this room is my simulators. I love these simulators. Force feedback steering wheel, Forza 3 Horizon, linked up 4 players, fun for the whole family. That concludes the retro room, and now for the final room, a replica of my childhood arcade. Welcome to Flashback. So this is it, my lifelong dream to have my own childhood arcade Flashback, and I absolutely love it. It turned out much better than I first thought. All up, there's about 97 machines in this room. So we'll start off with one of my favorite games. Well, I'm gonna say that a lot in this arcade room, and that's 720. And that's kind of why it's first when you walk in, because at Flashback, 720 was kind of front and center. This is going to be Gauntlet and Gauntlet 2. This is currently not working. There are a few in the room that are not working, and that's the fun of it all. And that's what you've got to tune into Insert Coin, where we pull apart machines and rebuild them from scratch and make them museum perfect. So here's another one, a classic Atari 1983 Star Wars Cockpit. Needs heaps of work, and I can't wait to get into that. Space Invaders, the first video game I ever played was in the arcade. Pac-Man, well, I love Miss Pac-Man, and that is actually my favorite of the Pac-Man series. Rolling Thunder, Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, APB, Zybots. Operation Wolf. These kind of games were the games I grew up on in the arcade, and that's why they're all on this top floor. Another classic is Road Blasters. This is a sit-down version, and again, it just oozes 1980s, and this is what I was playing at that time. We head back over to the middle to Super Sprint, which is on the back of 720 and Marble Madness. We head over here to two of the greats from Konami in the early 90s, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Simpsons. And another classic is Dragon's Lair. I've had this for decades, Mortal Kombat. How can you not have a Mortal Kombat if you've got so many arcades? Moving over to the final two is Xenophobe and Spy Hunter. I've grouped these together because NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat, Xenophobe and Spy Hunter are all Bally Midway. We're going to rush through around the outside of the room first, and this is my Neo Geo cabinet. I've had this for like 20 years. I absolutely love this cabinet. This is my Capcom upright section, and we have Ghosts and Goblins, 1943, Bionic Commando, Black Tiger, Forgotten Worlds, Ghouls and Ghosts, and Street Fighter Champion Edition. So now we swing around to the back wall, and we have pinballs all along this wall. There's 21 of them. I want more, but you know, I didn't want to make the room so big that I'm just filling it up for the sake of it. So it's just games I really love. You cannot have an arcade room without an air hockey table. Had hours and hours of enjoyment with the family. My son and my wife play it constantly. I'm more of a fan of 80s and 90s arcade, but when they released Outrun 2, it quickly went to my top 10 at least. I just love this game, and to have four of them linked up, hours of fun. And Daytona 2, these are linked up. These are full deluxe ones that actually move left and right, and the wheel almost rips your arm off, it's that strong. Another favourite of my son's is House of the Dead 2 and Laser Ghost. Quite the rare game, this one. It's a 3-player gun game and very ahead of its time for back in the day. Now, as you can tell, there's a lot of Sega arcade machines in this room, and this is where all the stand-up stuff is. So these are two Net Cities, Ikaruga, one of my favourite shooters, Spider-Man, Crazy Taxi, Virtual Fighter 2, probably the best Virtual Fighter release. A lot of people ask why don't I just buy a main machine, but I prefer to have the real thing, what I grew up with back in the 80s and 90s. So now we're going to start in the centre, and this is it, my pride and joy, probably my favourite arcade in the room, Space Harrier. This is Enduro Racer, a lot of work needed on the bike, and I just can't wait to get my teeth into restoring this. Outrun, full moving deluxe with a 25-inch screen, Afterburner, another deluxe machine by Sega, Power Drift. I mean, these are the staples of Sega in my opinion. And Darius Burst would have to be one of my favourite shooters. You know, there's over 3,000 levels, and I connected it to Tato recently to get a new patch. Rare, you want to talk rare? This is Ferrari 355 Challenge 2. There was only 42 made in the world of this particular version, the yellow version. On the back of this is a game that has never been ported to console, another crime, and that is Scud Race. Next to Scud Race is Ferrari 355 Challenge. This is part 1 as opposed to the yellow one. And this is Virtual Racing Deluxe. An air compressor, airbag seats, it makes you feel like you're actually driving a Formula 1 car. Coming to the end of Sega, we have Thunderblade, Turbo Outrun, and Super Hang-On. 3 small machines from Sega, but amazing games. And finally, a machine I have been looking for over 20 years, Quartet. That concludes the tour, and I hope you've enjoyed it, but this is only just the beginning. Tune in each Tuesday for Last Gamer Show, and each Friday for a special episode like Ion Retro, Insert Coin, and many more. Until next time, bye for now.
Do 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 do.